Hello and welcome to the very first episode of Coffee and Code. My name is Peter Fisher. I normally do a web chat like this or a stream like this on YouTube. So why am I doing this on Twitch? Well, I just want to try the platform out, and I just, the saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket. So today's Coffee and Code episode, we're going to be talking about some bits of news in the web development industry, as well as some code that I need to do. I've said in my previous How to Code Well YouTube channel that I want to provide more content. And I guess this is kind of my way of trying to do that. I've got a Monday show, I've got a Tuesday show, and that is a tutorial. So I've done a tutorial. I've got lots of tutorials on Docker and Docker Machine, MySQL, and also PHP, lots of PHP stuff. And I'm working on, in my sort of spare time, some Jekyll bits and pieces as well, which is going to come on in the next few weeks. And then on the Friday, we do a sort of a web chat. So that's me talking about things that really matter to me in web development. Now I guess I should sort of introduce myself to any Twitch users that are viewing this. My name's Peter Fisher, as I've said. I'm a freelance web and mobile app developer. My company, Websmatic, is what I trade under, and basically I build websites and mobile apps. And I've been doing that. I've been a web developer for a very, very, very long time, almost nearly a decade and a half, 2 decades. I need to check. I don't know, but it's an insane amount of time. Basically, I started this from out of university, and also before that, I was even doing some college courses, and before that, I was doing websites on the side. For friends and family and so forth. I'm basically a PHP developer primarily, although I do have and done Python. I've done C, and with the mobile app stuff, I do all sorts of bits and pieces: iOS, Android, and also Alloy.js, which is a way of creating cross-platform applications. So that's kind of me, really. I'm not going to do that again. But what we're going to do today is just talk about some bits and pieces that I've picked up in the last week or so, news-wise, and also do a bit of code. So what I want to do is provide more content, as I said, to YouTube, and the only way I can do that, because my time is extremely limited, is to work on stuff that I'm doing outside of my clients, that I do sort of just, on the side. One of which is my blog and my website and other bits and pieces. And I'm putting together a newsletter. So today we're going to go through building an email newsletter, if you will. But before that, I want to talk about some bits and pieces first in the news. And oh dear, this thing that I discovered fairly recently, actually, on Hacker News. This poor fella. I'll just change the screens. So this poor fella, he lost, unfortunately, 3 months worth of work on his GitHub. Not on his GitHub, sorry, on his project. 3 months worth of work. He was using the VSCode editor, and he was playing around with. I shouldn't laugh. I should not laugh. He was playing around with the settings for source control, and unfortunately, he didn't have his code in source control, and so he was playing around with it, and unfortunately, he clicked on some bits and pieces, some buttons. Just playing around with it, and unfortunately he deleted all of his 3 months worth of work. I think he clicked on the Git source control options to recheck out this from a fresh source. And he was asked to do you want to discard your changes and so forth, and that's what he did. I've put this I've put this image here because his comments on GitHub were, they're full of profanity, and it's something that I'm not going to tolerate on this channel is profanity. So I've put this image of a cat because everyone needs cats. Whenever there is any kind of abuse on the internet, you just throw them a cute little kitten. But I just wanted to talk about this because I've the first reaction you get when you hear these stories is why didn't you back your work up? There's a lot of, and then after that it's sort of like why didn't you put it in source control? But then it's all well and good to sit here and say that and sort of point and poke fingers and say you're such a novice and all of that stuff, you deserve to fail and all that. And there is some really nasty comments going around with developers can be really mean. They can be really, really mean. My stance is that we all started from somewhere. And I don't know what this fella's skill level is, right? I mean, obviously, because he wasn't working in source control, perhaps he didn't know what source control was. Maybe that's why he was looking for, playing around with those options and stuff. But we've all been there. We've all started from somewhere. I remember reading about GitHub. I remember reading about Git. I remember moving from SVN to Git. I remember, learning SVN, source control. And I remember using FTP. That's how old I am. I remember using FTP, an SFTP. If anyone's still using FTP, please put an S in front of it. So we've all been there. We've all been in that sort of level of unexperienced type stuff. And I'm certainly not going to say that I'm an expert at web development. We're constantly learning. This industry is constantly evolving. It's moving, and there's new things coming on, new trends, new things happen. And unfortunately, he pressed the wrong button at the wrong time, and it wiped out his 3 months worth of work. Now, obviously, this is an extremely ranty post, and there's a lot of profanity on it. He's extremely angry. One can understand that he's extremely angry because of his mistake. But the thing is, the real black and white crunch of it is that a computer will only do what you tell it to do, right? A computer will only do what you tell it to do. And if you tell it to discard changes, it's going to discard changes. Now, he said that he thought that those changes, when they were discarded, would be put back into his recycle bin. So, a Windows user. Yeah, okay. So file systems don't work like that. You shouldn't be using the recycle bin as a way of, as kind of a safety net. But I really feel for this guy. It's happened to me. I'm going to put my hand up and say it's happened to me when I was, about 7, maybe 8 years ago, ish. Don't quote me on that, but a long time ago, when I was first started out, I was given a Linux box to play with. Linux was something that I've done an LPIC course in Linux, and I've done Linux. Basically, I use Linux now on a daily basis. But when I started out, I was given this Linux box, one of these old, these I think they're called shuttle boxes. They're very small boxes, piece, hardware, and to play with. And this was whilst I was building websites for an agency, and I was just playing around, going on Google, searching for bits and code to make mount points, to do and set up SVN and set up repositories and all of that stuff. And I wanted to use that as my kind of development environment. Unfortunately, Fortunately I did the age-old thing, which was to remove or delete everything from slash in a forcible way. I forgot to put in a period, so I intended to delete everything from the current working directory, but unfortunately I didn't. And out of a panic, out of a rush, I guess, I just pressed enter and off it went. As a novice, I gave myself sudo rights completely. So there wasn't any. I mean, this was years and years and years and years and years ago. If anyone was to view this and go, hopefully he doesn't do this now. Yeah, I don't do don't do that. But my point is, you have to go through these things. You have to break things in order to learn. Right? It's the only way of doing it, in my opinion. It's the only way of truly understanding how something works, and that is taking the lid off and working out, looking at the internals and going, yeah, okay, that's how it works. And unfortunately, this guy did it, and brown trouser moment, and he followed through. That's the crunch of it. Now he can blame Microsoft as much as he wants, and he can point fingers at Microsoft as much as it wants. I mean, Microsoft is very renowned to having the paperclip. The safety. Did you really want to do this? Are you sure you want to do this? This sort of like this sort of be your best friend type. Look over your shoulder. Put your here's a safety net just in case something goes wrong. That kind of thing. And also, it's a danger of using GUIs. So if you're trying to do something that will have that consequence. If something says discard changes, that should put some alarm bells on, right? And if you're doing it in command line, I find that you're being a little bit more sort of accurate with it. Because anything you do will just suddenly get done without any kind of warning, any kind of prompt. And I suppose Microsoft could have made that prompt a little bit more sort of obvious. In big red letters. If you do this, you're going to screw up remove everything. Unfortunately, that guy has learnt a lesson. Well, not unfortunately that he's learnt a lesson, but unfortunately, that lesson is that he's lost 3 months' worth of work. I do feel for him. I really do. The interesting thing about this is that he actually went onto GitHub and made a complaint to the VSCode repository on GitHub about not having any source control himself, so him doing this is an extremely bold move. But I'm not going to give away his name. I'm not going to give away his what he said, because it would be quite embarrassing, I think. And like I said, we've all been there. We've all had that sort of experience. We've all started from nothing. We've all considered web development and programming whilst considering other avenues of industry, and we're all learning. So the nasty comments that are coming his way, I think aren't justified, because I do think that we do, as developers, we need to take a step back and go, yeah, that's that can easily be done, and that we've all had a similar sort of brown trouser experience. Some of us might have not followed through, but some of us has, and unfortunately he did. So Anyway, that's what I'm going to say on that. Be interested to hear what you guys think. If I'm going to put this on YouTube, I'm going to, or somehow there is a way, I think, of putting this onto YouTube on the How to Code Well channel. So for those who are watching this whenever it goes out, I'll be interested to hear from you on the How to Code Well YouTube channel. The How to Code Well YouTube channel, I should say, is it's growing. And I want to talk about some more advanced topics. We are talking at the moment about some very beginner level stuff. I feel that we need to cover those before we progress. But today I'm going to be focusing on writing a newsletter for the How to Code Well channel. So there will be some bits and pieces that I'm going to be talking about that I haven't spoken about before. So, but that it's very difficult to try and sort of isolate a certain topic and say, right, I'm just going to focus on that, because it's very difficult, because everything is overlapping. But anyway, we'll get onto the code in a minute. The next thing I want to talk about is, I'm going to just remove this. Let's just bring that up. So I'm just going to bring back into talking mode. So the next thing I'm going to talk about is something that I was asked fairly recently. In fact, just today, I was tagged in it, and it was a guy, or it was a friend who wanted to know what it is that clients should look for in web development. What clients should look for when choosing a web designer, a web developer, because and the post said, a website is just a website, right? So what is it that you actually look for when you're actually hiring people, to build your site, to design your site and stuff. So I came back with a long spiel, I hope you can tell that I'm quite passionate about web development, and just sort of trying to give the client the best possible application for that fits their needs within their budget constraints. And I basically said that calling a website just a website is just a website, is a bit like calling a cake just a cake. Okay, because there are so many different varieties of cakes. There are chocolate cakes and coffee cakes and all that stuff, right? And you bake them differently depending on the ingredients, and so forth. Some are sugar free, some aren't. It all depends on what the customer is, their requirements are. Some of them are gluten free and so forth. So you can't just say, a website is just a website. You can't just say a cake is just a cake. The stuff that I was saying was, as a freelance web developer, the questions that I ask to any client, regardless of what type of website they were after, and that's an important point. I didn't know what type of website the guy was after. Excuse me, I'm just going to grab some coffee. This is Coffee and Code after all. So, yeah, the questions I asked was, just trying to remember now. So, what is the purpose of the website? What is the marketing behind it? What is the branding behind it? What is it trying to achieve? How many times do you need to update that site, and how frequently? What is it that you want to do? Is it going to be an e-commerce site, or is it just going to be sort of one of these microsites? This sort of business card site type thing. What is the purpose of it? And you can't just class one website, with them all. You can't just say that a website is just a group of things. There are so many different elements and influences that define what a website is. It's one of these catch-all terms, if you will. And as a client, the trouble is, the difficulty is trying to find a developer who can build what they're after and can decipher the requirements. And that is something that it's something that I've been doing for a while now. And because sometimes when a client comes to you and says that they want to do X, they actually want to do Y, right? They don't actually want to do X. They want to do something else. And so because of your technical knowledge, because you know the issues that they may have in the next 3 months, week, because they've gone down that route, you don't obviously do Y without them knowing, but you sort of you try and guide their thinking, their way of thinking, to doing it like that. But what I ended up saying was that so many people can build websites. It doesn't take a genius to build a website at all. You just have to, learn how to do it and so forth. It's finding the right developer. It's finding the right person who can take your requirements, your specification that you just write down on a piece of paper, and convert that and build that into something that you actually need. And so with that, you need to have reliability, you need loyalty, you need to have the ability to adapt to the client and the client's needs. And you need to have a solid relationship there, a solid understanding of what that client actually needs, and talk to them about all sorts of bits and pieces. Sometimes web developers can just sort of they just care about the money sometimes, and what is a quick buck, and they'll do a quick win, and they'll do something that is just quick and dirty. And obviously, if you're only getting paid peanuts, then yeah, you're going to get monkeys, right? But the sort of the experience that a client really needs to do is to try and find those kind of things. Because the thing is, right, a client will just go onto the web and search for local web developers, and then they get confronted with all sorts of pages that have all sorts of portfolios and stuff. And so they'll just go on by what it is that that portfolios have. How well written is that website? It's not actually telling them about the experience that they're going to get when working with the developer. And you have to kind of cement that foundation, I feel. Anyway, whatever. Enough of that. Enough of that. So let's get into some code. So today I've tasked myself to build a newsletter. So what we got, if I go back to here, so we got the browser, we got terminal, and we've also got some code. Okay, so this is going to be in Jekyll. I'm just going to grab a drink. Apologies. Coffee. So this is going to be in Jekyll, and this is something that I haven't actually talked about much on the YouTube channel. So, but I will do in the future. What we've got here is a very simple, basic site. If you don't know, Jekyll is a way of creating static sites. I've got my blog, which is peterfisher.me.uk, and I'm considering moving it. Right, I'm considering moving it over to Jekyll. It's currently a WordPress site. Now, the biggest problem with Jekyll, actually, I shouldn't say it's a problem. The biggest difference, with Jekyll to WordPress is it doesn't have a CMS. Obviously, you're building flat HTML files, so there is no way of logging in. There's no way of managing bits and pieces that you would normally manage in WordPress. So you have to, when you're building these things, you have to weigh up the pros and cons. The pros of Jekyll is that it's static, it's extremely fast. There is literally next to no security that you have to worry about, on the actual website itself, because there is nothing to log into. There's obviously no e-commerce part of that. So I think that's a perfect thing for building newsletters, because you can build the files and spin it up in its internal server, which is something I'm going to demonstrate now. So let's go to the browser. So the browser at the moment, the browser at the moment is localhost. Croaky folk. And what I can do is start a internal server for Jekyll, and we do that by going over to here and we do bundle execute Jekyll serve. and that will go to localhost on that port. So we'll do that now. Let's just copy that. And paste. Okay, so there we go. And if we copy this. Now, before I do this, I should warn you that this is something that I've been doing for on and off, right? I've been doing this on and off. This is something that I haven't really plowed a lot of time into because I'm so busy with clients so it doesn't look great. I'm just fiddling about with the layout at the moment. So let's just paste that. Whoopsie. No. Nope. It is look close. Oop, bear with me, Emo. Bear with me. That's something's gone horribly wrong. Okay, sorry about that. Right, here we go. Okay, so like I said, there isn't anything, any kind of content on here. I'm just playing around with the layout of stuff. The original website, if I showed you, is this one. So that's the original website, and you can see here that this is my one of my latest tutorials, and these are some other bits and pieces as well. If we went to, say, and then that's my blog and stuff like that. Let's just bring this out a little bit. Yeah, so if I was to click on here, we'll get this is all the PHP tutorials that I've got, and also with, let's do Docker as well. So they're the Docker tutorials, Docker machine tutorials, and I've got 11 Docker container tutorials as well. And also on the Friday show, like I said, we do a web chat, which is I've split this up into a lot of playlists. Let's find, so that web development career advice, interviews, and web development chats. Yeah, okay. So far, there's a few chats that I've done on the Friday. Let's go back here, and I've also done a couple of live stuff as well. I'm not sure why that image isn't showing. So yeah, I mean, that's kind of like the website that I'm trying to replicate, obviously building it far better. And so I've just been playing around with the layout and stuff. So that would be the homepage, and I've kind of been blogging about it too. So this isn't live, and I don't know when it will be. I don't even know if I'm going to use Jekyll. It's one of these things that I'm just playing with at the moment. So what I would like to do is create some newsletters off the back of the YouTube channel, and we're going to let's go back into VSCode, if I can just scroll. There we go. Right. Okay. So what we're going to do here is create some directories for the newsletter, and so we have these underscore folders, which I'm going to talk about in far more detail in the Jekyll tutorials that I'm going to do on the How to Code Well YouTube channel. But the important one here is the underscore site. The underscore site is the website that is built when Jekyll, the internal server, is running. So this is actually where all the bits and pieces live. In terms of like it's I suppose you could say it's compiled representation of the website, if you will. When you're just creating stuff in Jekyll, you can use Markdown files and you can use HTML files. You use what's called front matter. Again, I'll talk about all of this in far more detail. And it's just a way of using or linking to layouts and includes. There's also a folder in here called underscore data, and you use JSON as a way of creating data that you can loop through using something called, I think it's fluid templating. Let me just double check that because I don't want to say anything that is wrong. Let's go to it is templates. So these are all the templates that you can use, and I'm looking for the name of it. I think it is Fluid, or is it Liquid? Anyway, it's a templating engine that is really good. It's a way of including files, including CSS files. It's a way of manipulating stuff as well. So there's things like pagination and permalinks and themes and assets and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, whatever. We'll talk about all of that later on. Let's now talk about newsletters. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a new directory in here, and we're just going to have newsletters just to keep it separate from everything else. And what I'm going to do is just create an index page first. So new HTML file. Let's just do index.html. I'm going to choose HTML rather than Markdown for this, simply because at the end of the day, it's going to be a HTML file, right? It's going to be an email newsletter. So if I was to put in some bits and pieces in here, let's do, not in the head. Just a H1. This is a test. Save that. Because I've created a new folder called newsletters, it will be /newsletters and then index. So if we go back to the code, it's going to say that it's regenerating and it's found one file that's changed. So maybe, I haven't actually fully tested this yet, but if we go to, newsletters, like so, yeah, and you can see this is a test. The beauty with this is that you can, like I said, you can loop through data files and stuff, which is something that I'm going to be looking at shortly. So let's play with this a little bit longer. Let's go to index. Let's copy the front matter, which is this stuff here. It's basically everything within the three dots. And so we're going to do layout homepage. If I did layout homepage, and let's just go back to one of these. Just bear with me a mo. Tags, index. It's been a while since I played with this. Okay, so been a while. Save that. Yeah. Okay. So because I've set it to be the homepage layout, it's gone straight back to the homepage. That's what I was trying to do. So we can do layout as none, and we can save that. And what that will do is just go back to how it was. So you can see that it's extremely adaptable, right? It's extremely adaptable, and I will talk about all the ins and outs in far more detail, but I just wanted to build some bits and pieces. So what we're going to do is in includes or layouts to homepage. Right, I'm just going to copy that. I'm going to give it another layout. New file, and we're just going to do newsletter. Whoops. .html. Yep. Save that. Okay, so this is now going. I've now created a layout called newsletter, which will be the same as the homepage. And on here, I can now do layout is newsletter, like so. And if I did on the strapline, change that to be newsletter. So these are variables that you can set that gets injected into the page. Save that. Go back to here. Refresh. And there we go. See that strapline has changed. Okay, that's good. That's good. So let's have a play with the layout. So we have the container, then we have container head, which is fine, and then we have this main section here. Okay, that's good. What I'm going to do is remove this part here, because it's a newsletter. There's not going to be obviously the menu bit at the top. there's not going to have this part here. So if we did that, we remove that bit there. Good. Okay, let's. I don't need to show that. So let's have a look. What else can we remove? So we're not going to have a video promotion, so that's fine. So I'm just basically stripping out the stuff that I don't actually need. Whenever I try and create a template, I try and base it off of one that I've already got, because then there's less chance of creating a different set of styles or a different layout, if you will. I know that this is a newsletter, so it's going to have a wildly different layout to the actual web page. But at the end of the day, if there is some selectors, some classes, some CSS stuff that I can use without it affecting anything else, then why not just use that, right? Let's not reinvent the wheel. No, we don't do that here. Back to the code, because that's what we're here for. So we've got this. I've removed this header here, which is fine. Let's go back to the code, and so we've got this bit here. Subscribe. We will keep that, and perhaps the list, but our list is going to be slightly different than that, obviously. So we're going to have something a bit like this, this blue thing here, where it's just going to be like this video and then this video, that kind of thing. Oops, clicked on that. Let's go back. So this bit here, this is kind of what we want to do. And we've got this navigation bar here, video featured. And so we've got the content, which has where it says col and then _55. So what I'm using here is, my mind's gone blank. Flexbox. So I'm using Flexbox to do all this. So this is saying that this is 25%. This is 55. That kind of thing. These are just classes that I've created, and I've done this in Sass and Sass CSS main.sass. So it looks a bit messy, I will admit that. But yeah. So I've created a couple of variables, and then the beauty with Jekyll is it compiles this down whenever you do a change. You can watch this and you can set it to watch changes to this, which is great. So anyway, let's get back to, let's just kill that. That was a very quick and daft explanation of what Sass is. Back to the home page. So we've got this row, which is the posts, and this is the thing that we're after, this thing here, this subscription. So I'm going to remove this nav here, which is the video features, and I'm going to remove this promotion as well. So that's div to div. I'm using okay. I'm slightly echoey. To mono. If you did anything before down to mix, then undo. I can't remember because I was just clicking buttons. I went to, I tell you what, I hit defaults and then hit OK. Does that make any better? I did default. So anyway, I'm going to remove this thing here. Row. Like that, and save this. So what I'm doing is just altering the layout of the page. That's the home page. That's the index of the home page. That's the teaching. That's the publications part. That's the primary nav. Let's just tidy this up. So this is the newsletter, and that is going to be. Yeah, that's fine, and that is the newsletter layout. Let's close that, save this, go back to the page, refresh, and we've got we've removed the promo bit, and we've just got this bit part here, which is good. and just make sure that, yeah, we're on /newsletters. And I just want to double check, have I ruined? Yeah, I have. Let's hit homepage. Control Z is your friend. Good. Save, refresh that. Obviously, I need to go back a little bit more. Save. Whoopsie. And what I'm going to do is just rebuild this. So I'm going to close that down and then run Jekyll serve to rebuild that. Sometimes you have to do that to if you're linking new files and stuff together. But yeah, we seem to have lost the homepage here, the header bit. So if we did index, that's going to, nope, that's the wrong one. If we did index here and we did homepage, that's going to homepage layout. Homepage layout should have the header container, although it's forgive me. There we go. Right, so that's the homepage. And if we went to newsletters, that is the newsletter. Good. Okay, let's remove that before I make any more mistakes. Right. So we've got these 3 boxes. These are the video thumbnails, which are these 3 here. We're going to remove them. And I know that they look nice, but the thing is, with email newsletters, you have to make it as simple as possible. And I'm not going to use tables. I wouldn't want to put myself through that. Basically, tables are HTML4, and they just get, I mean, even I find them insanely complicated when you've got nesting tables, tables and tables and tables, tables and tables and tables, and you're like, where am I in the code? So we should all be using HTML5, and we should all be using making it mobile responsive. The problem with HTML emails is that you've got to treat the email clients, Thunderbird, Outlook, Gmail, like browsers. And unfortunately, browsers aren't compatible. You know, they're more compatible now these days. But so the best thing to do, in my opinion, when creating an email template is to use more of a responsive layout, more sort of like percentages. That's the word I was looking for, percentages. So try and get everything into 100%, and try not to do things overly complicated. You can make some really lovely complicated email newsletters, sure. Better people than I can do that. But for me, this is something that I need to throw together quite quickly because, like I said, my time is extremely limited. So I just want to create just some horizontal, horizontal rows here. So a video on this side, some description, and then another video on this side and a description, and so forth. Just making it nice and simple. That way you don't have to worry too much about testing them in different email clients. And that, yeah, I will be doing that later on. Not on this show. I don't want to bore you with that. But I will be obviously testing it out. Hey Natsak, so I hope my audio sounds better now. But hey ho, let me just grab a drink. My throat is killing me. Excuse me. Sounds a bit weird. Right, let's get back to the show. 3 of these. Yeah, I'm going to remove that. So there we go. Remove this part here. So can you see that we're slowly making this layout a little bit more easier to read? It's less. We're just removing all the stuff that we don't need, basically. Save that and I'll refresh. Okay, so that's what we're after. And you see this. Whoops! You see that it's got this list. Boom, 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 boom. That list here is this list here, which we'll be playing with in a minute. But what I want to do at the moment is just remove that sidebar on the right here, this one, because like I said, you don't want to make these email templates overly complicated, and we certainly don't need to have a subscribe to email updates in your email newsletter. That just doesn't make sense. So let's remove that. So that is the right sidebar here, and I'll just say, when you're including templates in Jekyll, that is layouts, homepage, sidebars, right base. So basically what it's doing is it's importing that file in. So I'm going to remove that like so. Then refresh. Okay, there we go. Now, because we're using Flexbox, even though that was, I keep hitting, I'm just going to, go back here. Because we're using Flexbox, even though that's set to _55 is set to like 55% of the column, and the first column is 100%. It stretches to the available width, so it's like, it stretches to the available width. So because I removed the right hand side, that's the way it. Oh, thank you, Nutsack. So I really need to keep sort of half an eye on this comment stream. It's so different from the YouTube stuff. I like the comment, thanks ever so much for your feedback. Right, so we've also got this stupid footer right here, which is just an absolute mess. So we're going to remove that too, which is, I really should stop clicking without, there we go. So there we go. So we removed that, and we're going to play with that ourselves. Let's just everyone knows that that's content. Actually, what I'll do, let's save this. So this is the layout, right? This is the layout, but what we can do is in the actual file, because if we looked here, we've got newsletters and then the actual index file. We can actually inject, let's just remove that. We can actually inject content, and we can remove that too, and remove that as well. We can actually inject content to this, and if I went to, I can actually show you this this web page now. If we went to the documentation and we had a look at variables, we have these sort of like predefined variables, one of which is content, and you can inject the content of your index file into the template. So here, anything after the front matter will be deemed as the value of the content variable. Save that. And so you can inject that into here. Let's just uncomment that, save this. Now, the content is just this is a test, right? But I can just do this is a test, blah, 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 whatever. And if I was to refresh this page, you can see it's just injected that in. So anything in the actual index file will get injected, and it's the same with everything else. So like on here, for example, we have, not on that one, that's a bad example, on publications. So we have this publications, because it's in Markdown, this becomes a header, that gets injected too, and it's using the publications layout, so it's a different one. Anyway, so I'm going to keep that in for now, and what I'm going to do is just inject. So what I want to do, these layouts need to be as basic and as sort of like placeholdery as possible. I don't even know if placeholdery is a word. It is now, placeholdery. Let's copy that. Let's. So what I'm going to do is put that back. Is cut this like that. Let's just make sure that these all add up. They do. Save this and then actually bung that into here. So instead of this is a test, and instead of this, let's just comment that out. We can do row and then column, and then we can do. So this is this is row 1, not 21. Row 1. I remember when I was 21. Those were the days. Those were the days. Row 2, and then row your boat gently down the stream. Anyway, row 3, and save all the things. Don't need to, just keeping an eye on this Sometimes you get errors in here if you do something wrong, obviously. So it's always good to check that. Let's refresh this page, and now you've got these rows, row 1, 2, and 3. So I've injected that in. I've removed the the list that we had before. So it's starting to look a little bit what we're after. It's very, like I said, very, very basic. So let's go to, so that was including layouts, homepage, posts. So if we did layouts up here, then that's homepage. Oh, sorry, this includes layouts, homepage, posts, and it goes into list. And it's just saying if the site, that is the variable, has, and then site.posts. So it's very, I'm going to say the word object literal. So site posts and then checks the length. If it's greater than 1, then it, if it's less than 1, 0, whatever, then it says no post to show, and then it just includes the posts. So that goes to include menus and then latest. So let's just go there. So menus, posts, and then latest. Okay, so then it does a check again, and then it does a nav menu, and then it just goes through all the bits and pieces. So what I'm going to do is just copy that, and just, we're going to bring it over here and just see how this reacts. If I paste that into here, let's just remove the posts for the moment. Let's not worry too much about the logic. Let's just remove the title for now. Remove the for loop. Remove the end for. Remove the end if. And I'm just going to make up some titles. So this is going to be row 1. And just say this is where the image will be. Okay, and then the tag's going to remove those. Just trying to make this as simple as possible. And then this, we're just going to do, this is where the description will be, okay? And I'm going to, yeah, let's just remove all of this. Basically what I'm doing right now is just playing with the layout to get a feel for how it's going to be. I'm going to remove that too. And I think this isn't very semantically done very well. I'll tidy that up in a minute. So we have div, then column, then the nav, then the article. Oh my god, this is like nested. It's divots. It's got a case of divots. But anyway, let's just save this and see what actually happens to this. Refresh. Okay, so we got this sort of border here. Okay, interesting. Okay, go back into the newsletter. Am I making life just a little bit too difficult? Perhaps I just need that instead. Div row. I reckon that's all I need. Let's just copy that. But now that is super simple. Let's go into here. Instead of this, let's just copy that and do let's just do image, and then let's just do description. Can't spell description, but whatever. Let's just see what that does. Let's refresh that. Yeah, okay, that's cool. So if I had another one of those, although we are playing with IDs here, which is not good. It's probably there we go. Okay, whatever. That's probably better, and it's probably slightly more semantically correct as well. Apart from, obviously, this isn't an image. But what we can do is just do a div in here and do a class and give it a class of Let's do 25. Make that col as well. Div, and then do p some text like so. Refresh. Copy that again to just play with that a little bit more, and then do another one. Okay, so that's going to be 25. Yeah, okay. So that's some text, and nope, that's not what I wanted to do. That's not what I wanted to do at all. Okay, what we can do, I'm just going to double check something. Let's just go to show the web inspector. Not sure if this is going to show on the code, but here we go. So we got 25. Okay, that's gone up 100%. I think it's because what we need to do is designate that as a. Let's just see what I had with. It's been such a long time since I've done this. This is kind of what I want to do. So we had video thumb col 25, and it was a flex grid. Okay, yeah, it needs to be flex grid. Okay, so the parent needs to be flex grid. Fine. Okay, let's add that in now. So the ID is that the col is 25, row, and then another row. I think if I just set that to be instead of there we go, okay. And if we did come on, there we go. Right, so that is there and there. Let's change that to be 55. You're gonna make that slightly bigger. Yep. Okay. All right. So we've got some text. What we need to do is actually add some images rather than some text, because otherwise this is going to be really, really boring. So what I've got, you're doing this in Bootstrap. No, I'm not. I'm doing this in basically my own CSS. I'll show you. If we go into CSS, we're doing this in Sass, in fact, and I basically built this myself. And it is a bit of a messy CSS thing, but you know and we're using FlexGrid, so we're not using like a bootstrappy grid system. I'm just trying to keep it as basic as I can. The thing is with Bootstrap is really good. I really like Bootstrap, but I just find that there's a lot of things in it that you just don't need. I'm a little bit of a purist in that sense, especially when you're using Jekyll, because you know, the whole reason, well, one of the reasons why I'm moving to Jekyll is that I want to keep the site extremely streamlined and extremely fast. So I don't really want a lot of bloat. But saying that, you do have to do some things that perhaps are just offered to you on a plate when you're using those kind of frameworks. So a lot of this fiddly, you know, lining up stuff. It's not just a simple case of saying, you know, is it like I can't remember is it col MD and then like 1 for like medium display and then LG for large displays, stuff like that. If you're not worrying about all that stuff, then there's no need. Anyway, let's scroll back. So I've yeah, so images. Let's make this a little bit more colorful. So here is a link of an image that I'm going to add, and that was last Friday of yesterday's, in fact, web chat. I was talking about caching and how it isn't a silver bullet for website performance. Slightly controversial, I know, but I'm basically, this newsletter, I want to plow in some of this content. So with emails, you have to obviously give them the correct URLs. You can't just say it's not like what am I trying to use your words, Pete? You can't give relative URLs. You can't say that it's like in /images folder, because obviously it's an email and they're not going to have any knowledge of that. When you're creating emails, you basically have to isolate everything. You basically have to go with the knowledge that when you send an email, it's going to go to a mobile phone or to just any email client, and any images, any external files, any external CSS needs to come from somewhere. With the CSS, what I try and do is inline it, and I'll show you how to do that later on if we get to it. And that's because it's something that you can just parcel up and isolate and give to them in the email. You're not saying that you're relying on this external file, and sometimes browsers or sometimes email clients don't like you doing that, downloading stuff, doing an external request. Anyway, enough of my rambling. Let's get this done. Image src is equal to and we're just going to close that off. Let's see what that looks like. It's probably going to be uber small. That'll do. And then we have some text here. So again, if I was to do that with this one, let's just copy this, Control C, Control V, save, refresh. There we go. Okay, so I need to have a bit of a margin going on here, and then some text. So the some text stuff, let me just bring up some bits and pieces. So bear with me just a mo. I'm just tracking down some more images, because obviously I'm not going to have the same image all the time. Let's just bring that over here. Shush. So I wish there was a way I could actually just cancel the sound off of this. Anyway, let's go here. Quickly hit pause, otherwise that's going to make a noise. What I'm doing here is just going through all of my catalog and trying to get the URLs for the videos, because with YouTube, it's the URL is like this, right? So you have img.youtube.com vi, and then that is the ID of the video. So if I was to put in that ID and then refresh, it goes to that one. So that is what we're going to do. We're going to put that in here. I've had one of those. I use a magic mouse to do my work, and I had one of those sort of nervous feelings that the magic mouse battery is about to go. Sometimes you can tell when you move the mouse around, it lags a little bit. Let's just hope that doesn't happen. Otherwise, I'll be a bit stuck. So, okay, so that's the next one. And I'm going to do another one too, which is, because everything is good in threes. And close that. Fine. We're going to do a tutorial on... Yeah, we'll do the header tutorial. That's the latest one, I suppose. These are very basic tutorials. I really want to start talking about some more advanced topics, especially around design patterns and stuff. I'm a Symfony developer, and I'm not talking about Symfony. It's daft. But I think that it's important to start from the beginning, right? So here's another one. That is about talking about the PHP header that we did a few weeks back, I think. So go back into here. I'm just going to paste that down here. Copy this like that. Paste this in. All the things. Save. Refresh. And there we go. We've got the third one. Let's just knock that down. Okay. So I'm going to just add some random spiel, some text to each of these things just to make it look a little bit more better. So we're going to copy that. Where it says some text, we're just going to paste this in. Now, obviously, I want to do this automatically, right? Obviously, I want some sort of script that loops over something, some data array of some kind that can pull this out automatically. I haven't got there yet, but that's in the wings. That's what I'm going to try and do in the future. Let's go back to you. Close that. Grab these things. I really need to write better descriptions. Okay, copy these. The thing is, web development is something that I've done for years and years and years, and web development is something that I've done for years and years and years, and when I started out, I got a lot of help from forums and places like that. Things like Twitch, things like YouTube, just they weren't ever a thing. They just weren't ever a thing, and so it's great to have these platforms to learn off of. Whoops. There we go. Sorry. Hello, Actress27. Hope you're well. Hope you're doing all right. There we go. So what we've got is this massive gap. Massive gap that we're going to have to deal with. And I need to deal with these margins too, even though they're fine here, but they're not there. So let's have a look. What should we do next? What should we do next? I guess what we need to do is take a look at the classes that we're playing with here. So we're doing FlexGrid as a section, and we're giving them a row. What I can do is put a margin on each one of these. So I can do, let's just do newsletter row. And let's keep it consistent, do a hyphen instead. Row. Sometimes I do hyphen, sometimes I don't, but whatever I do, I try and keep it consistent. And so what this is going to do with the power of cascading style sheets is it's going to use the row first, and then whatever's in newsletter row, which I need to put in there, is going to then override. Okay, so I can create a new class now in in the main Sass. We'll just bung it. Where is row here? Row. Let's try and keep them together. And paste that in. So I can do margin, let's say margin bottom, and I'm going to give it 20 pixels, like so. Let's refresh and see what has happened. There we go. So it's starting to pick up shape, although this needs to be properly fixed. Let's do develop and show web inspector again. Let's have a look and see what's going on. So this is because it's set to col 25. Let me have a look at the. I knew that was going to trip me up. Setting it to 25. Scroll down here. This is basically what it is. So the flex grid is 2.5. So if I was to set this to, so where it says flex 12, it's just saying that you can have 12 boxes, if you will, in the space of this column. And because I've got 2 columns, I suppose I should do 2. But I've got to keep aware that there is that humongous margin. Let's try that anyway. Let's change that to 2.5 on these things. 2.5 or just 2. So change all of those to 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, oops. Yeah, you could give it a margin right of 0, I suppose. Although it's not the margin that's controlling it; it's the actual flex box itself. It's spanning it out. I think, anyway. I think. Save that. It's all trial and error here. No, that didn't work. So if I change that to be margin right of 0, then all it's going to do is change the margin of, see, it's margin already set to 0. Let's bring that back. So it's that's causing the problem. It's this part here that's causing the issue. Can you see that is, if I hovered over this part here, it's the container that the image is in is pushing everything to the right. So I need to adjust that somehow. And so it's setting that to 2, and it's setting it to col, and because the screen size col has a flex basis of 100%, margin 2 and 2. I just want to try something out. Let's just move this. Does it? No. So making that smaller, making that bigger. That doesn't do anything. So it's not the image that's pushing it out, it's the actual thing here. So I need to change this to be maybe 6. Nope, that didn't do anything. Change that to 2. God, I haven't worked on Flexbox for a while. So that's changing the margin. It's still pushing that out. Even though, so it's not, oh yeah. And then change the flex basis and the margin. And it's probably, bingo. And bingo was his name-o. So let's bring all that back. So it was this thing here, that the call of 100%. If I was to remove it from flex, so if I was to take off the column, take off the flex basis, and remove the 100%, then it would push it back, which is okay. I suppose that's what we kind of are after, really, because it's because the container is set to the size of this, because we're not defining the width of that based on the column. So what we can either do is adjust the amount of boxes here, because essentially what we've done is we've said that there's 2 columns. There's 2 things here, and what we want to do really is not do that. So that is a row with two bits. So if that was set to, let's just change that to be column, and then set that to be just column, so they're not set to any kind of thing. Change that to be underscore, underscore 2. There we go. That's looking slightly better. Slightly better. It's getting there, isn't it? Let's faff about with that. So I was setting this to just normal, and then allowing that to be 2. I kind of know what's going on. I'll explain in a mo. Save that. Refresh the page. There we go. Take that, remove that. Okay, so basically what happened there is, oh, I need that again. Here we go. So basically what happened there with the old Flexbox is that we have, let's just focus on one of them at the moment. So this one here. So we've got a column, and then we've got column 2. Column, I've set it excuse me, to be defined as flexbox1. So this means that it's going to be one box within this row. Okay, I had it set to 2 before. 2 basically means that it's going to be 2 boxes in this row. This here is set to 2. So this is going to be 1, 1, and it's going to map to the width of the contents. Where when it was set to 2, if we can see here, it was mapping it to column of 2. So it's basically saying that doubled. But this needs to be 2 because it's 2. So if you split this up, I'm not explaining this very well. Essentially, what you've got is three columns here. You've got 1 column, you've got 2 columns, and then you've got 3 columns. Yeah. So basically, you need to have 3 within this row. Column is by default set to 1. Column 2 underscore 2 is set to 2. Yeah. If I was to set that to underscore 2 again, so just change that to be underscore 2, that will push that over there because it's not only is it that width, but it's also that width, because if you imagine a a vertical line all the way down the page, it's going to split that and that in half. Yeah. We don't want to do that. We want to treat it like 3/3, right? So, you know, cutting the page up into thirds, where this is the first third, and then the text itself is 2/3, right? Therefore, you've now got the you've mapped the whole width. Boy, this is when I do web chats and stuff on the I've done that the wrong way around. When I do stuff for other companies where I'm doing voiceovers and stuff like that, there's a lot of editing involved, as you can probably imagine. There we go. Okay, cool. So that's how it's got. So we've defined 3/3 page, cut the page up into thirds, which means that we can do some crazy stuff. I say crazy stuff. Ugh. We can do some stuff like this. We can copy that, and we can go into here, we can paste that, and we can change that to be a column of 2, and that's column of 1, which basically means that we've gone and done that. So we have the image here, text, and then some more text, and then an image. And yeah, you've seen those blogs, those layouts where it's sort of like, you know, where you got different different things. It keeps your eyes interested, I guess. I suppose that is kind of how we're going to go for it. Next thing is actually putting in a little sort of a spiel about welcome to the newsletter, that kind of stuff. So here I'm just going to do another row div copy that. Sod it. Let's just copy this. Like so. It's going to be a row, and what I'm going to do is put in a div of col, which is class of col. Now col, I've set it to 1 by default. If there isn't another col beside it, it will use the whole width, so that will be 100% essentially. And we're just going to do a h1, and we're just going to do welcome. If I can spell, welcome to the how to code well newsletter. Save, a refresh. There we go. So I'm in debate as to whether or not I want to keep that camel case like that. I say camel case, that if that's camel case, that needs to be that, or whether it should be spelt properly. I quite like that, to be honest. I'll be interested to see what you guys think, if you've got any views on that. I'm going to keep this border, I think. I'm going to keep this. Sometimes people like to butty that up to the top. I'm just going to keep it as it is. I think that's quite a nice, quite a nice sort of border, if you will, if that was the same sort of width each side. Excuse me. Okay, so next thing is a paragraph. and this is going to be dear, and then, or instead of dear, that's a bit formal, isn't it? Let's do hey, and then the name of the person, comma. PR for line break. In this month's newsletter, I'm just making this up. I haven't actually sat down and actually thought about what I should actually add to the content to this, which is slightly daft. I should have done that, but something I have noticed is that the margins are slightly off, the padding is slightly off. I might tweak that later on. So hey, in this monthly newsletter, or let's just, instead of that, welcome to, I'm going to keep in this, hey, blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to do welcome to this month's how to code, whoopsie, code. Oh, come on, Pete. Get your fingers typing. Welcome to this month's How to Code Well newsletter. And I'm going to do a H2 latest videos. Oops, no, I really buggered that up, haven't I? That should be, oops, copy, that should be outside like that. There we go. So latest videos, and it's a capital L. Like so. Like I said, I haven't really thought about what I'm going to put into this newsletter. So we got latest videos, and then I guess what I could do at the bottom is have a thing at the bottom here where it is subscribe to bits and pieces. So let's just, instead of an image, let's just do that, make it all one single column. And let's just do, we'll do a UL, and we'll do an LI, and we'll do subscribe to, excuse me, get the latest. This is where my dyslexia comes in. Oh, great. Subscribe to the latest, subscribe to get the latest web development tutorials and web chats. And we're going to do another LI underneath where we have this follow well, let's just do Twitter, and then also do Instagram and everything else that we do. So Twitter, we've got Instagram, and we've also got Pinterest, which is something that surprisingly Pinterest, yeah, something I've recently been playing with Pinterest. But yeah, I mean, I've got a Pinterest board for the How to Code Well YouTube channel. You can actually view YouTube videos in Pinterest, which is something that I found out by accident the other day. Let's refresh, see what disasters we've done. Okay, that's not looking so bad. But what I'm going to do is just play around with that a little bit. So instead of it being now, I guess to make it look nice, you would have the Twitter logos, and you would have the Instagram logos, and so forth. And you could do this sort of running along in a sort of a sort of a horizontal way here, so Twitter and then Instagram, then Pinterest. I might do that later on. The thing is, I don't want to. The newsletter is all about trying to get people to go to the channel, and I don't want them to have a massive, huge email full of images, full of stuff that they have to download. So I might just keep it as text for now. So let's do that, which is a href, and we're going to equal that to come on, Magic Mouse, do not die on me. Href, and it's HTTPS. Can you guess what the Twitter handle is? Twitter.com/how-to-code. Well, wow, that was a whoever came up with that idea is a genius. Same with Instagram, and Pinterest as well. Pinterest. Well, in my other browser, I'm just going to click on these, or just going to put these in the other browser I've got off screen, just to make sure that is right. How to code well. Yep, that is the channel. And then Instagram. So Instagram I use for just sort of my generalness, I suppose. It's not all about the channel. It's also just about code in general. Going to see clients and all of that stuff. Yep, that works fine. And then with the Pinterest, 1, 2. Nope, that doesn't work. Have I spelled Pinterest wrong? I probably have, knowing me. Yeah, I have. What a fool. What a fool. At least I can take the mickey out of myself, I suppose. Which probably means I've actually spelt the word wrong. Which I have. Of course I have. Right, save. Okay, right, so refresh. Now we have these things, and because we're using the style sheet that I've already got, we've got this style, and I don't really like that. It's seeing this as a menu, and also the subscribe, I guess, needs to be a link to. Let's do that too. So let's grab that. Which is going to be, surprise, surprise, youtube.com/how-to-code well. Wow. Let's take out that A because that's going to break it. Subscribe to all the things. All the things. Let's just double check that is the right one, which it is. Good. Hello, Slayer Darth. Hope you're well. PHP feature in news. Oh, you troll. Yes, I am a PHP developer. I put my hand up and say I'm a PHP developer who surprisingly does write Python too. I'm going to add. So I use Python a lot to pull down the videos off of YouTube. YouTube's got this fantastic API that you can use with various languages, one of which is PHP, but I chose Python because I find that Python is far easier to script with than PHP. I know you can do it with PHP, but I'm an advocate of you've got to use the tools that work well with what it is that you wish to achieve. Just because you're a PHP developer doesn't mean that you have to do everything in PHP. Okay, and just because you're a Python developer doesn't mean that you have to do everything in Python either. I also use Ruby. I also use Ruby to publish content. So I use Capistrano as a way to publish some bits and pieces. For some things, other things I do other bits and pieces for. I use different deployment methods and stuff. Sorry, when I said Python 2, I meant I also know Python 2. I haven't actually looked too much into Python 3. I'm not too sure what is the difference. I haven't really spent a lot of time with Python 3. Most of the stuff I've been doing is, I think it's Python 2. Is it 6 or 7? Rather than Python 3. I'm sure there's lots of advantages for it, but I'm not. None of my clients use Python, so I just use it whenever I want to use it. Hey, so it's starting to look sort of okay. Refresh that. That should bring it into line. Do you? Sorry, Slave Darth. I've got one eye on the comments. With Py3, you need to pass the parentheses to the print statements. Okay. Yeah, okay. Right. All right, so this thing here is looking a little bit sort of like one-sided at the moment. So what can we do with that? We could put in sort of another image on this side. Like I said, I'm really making this up as I go along. I'm going to remove this because that just looks terrible. And I'm going to remove these bullet points as well. I'm going to make these look just like links. It's not a website at the end of the day. It's not a website. So here with the col, we're going to do newsletter row. It is sort of a newsletter row. I'm going to change this because if I come back to this and go, oh, that's a newsletter row, then that's what does that mean? That doesn't mean anything. So I'm going to do newsletter row, and I'm going to do hyphen video, and I know that makes it look really long, but what I've done there is I've kind of given it a bit of a domain. So the domain is newsletter, then hyphen, then I know it's a row, and then what it is, what type of row is it? So in this case, it's a video, which means that I can have like newsletter hyphen row hyphen something else, and then anything inside that I can adjust. I try and do this as much as I can with the CSS. I don't need that one. Even though I'm primarily a back-end developer, I think it's always good to have one foot in the front-end camp too. So we go to main CSS, and I'm just going to try and find that class here. So that's video. Whoopsie. And we're going to copy that, paste that. Oops, that didn't go so well. There we go. So newsletter video, and I'm just going to do newsletter row footer as well. And if we do, yeah, I'll deal with that in a minute. I know what we've got two classes that have the same thing, but what I'm going to do is once I decide on how the styling works, I'll then remove the common elements. So we're going to save that, go into here, change that to be footer. Now the footer I'm going to change the color of, so just to make it stand out a little bit more. So here I'm just going to do background hyphen, if I can spell it, background hyphen, come on, color. I'm going to change that to be sort of a grey, because grey and boring and everything. Save. Pizza grease on the keyboard. You know what? I am really hungry. I should have got some something to eat whilst I was doing this, but I thought, I don't really like eating at my desk. So okay, so that is grey, and I'm just going to do, I'll combine these at the moment. So we do that, and we do U2. So what I'm doing is just combining these two classes, so I can remove margin bottom out here, which means that if I change margin bottom here, then I've changed it for both the row, for the video, and also the footer. Okay. Let's refresh, and it's all the same. Let's remove this stupid set of dots. We don't need that. So again, with the CSS, we can copy that, and we can do UL, and we do list. Oopsie, style none. We're also going to do padding. I'm going to set that to none as 0.2. Refresh the page, and we've removed that, which is okay. Going to change the color of these things because they do look a bit sort of like these aren't links. So again, similar thing to here. Copy that, change that, and instead of UL, we're going to do A. I'm just going to trial this out, color, and we're just going to do. We're just going to set it to white to start with. And there we go. Yeah, no, I agree with you, Slav there. Slayer Darth. Xdebug really does help extend PHP's error and logging capabilities. I'm using here PHP Storm, and you can really hook that in very well to PHP Storm. Another PHP sort of unit testing thing is Codeception. Codeception is a really good framework for which sits on top of PHP Unit, and you can use that as a way of testing all sorts of things, including, which is what I was playing with about 3 weeks ago, APIs. So you can actually test the response of an API in Codeception. The problem with, and I know this is a massive diversion to what I'm actually doing, but the problem with testing APIs is that you can't be sure of the consistency of the return. So when you're returning JSON, you can't say that the indexes will be in a certain order. You can't. There's no guarantee that that will happen. So when you're testing stuff out, testing APIs out, it's very difficult to go through the return and response. But with Codeception, what you do is you define how the JSON should be returned, and it doesn't matter in what order it gets returned, like whether your key is above another key or below another key. And you can also define the value as well off of the key. So you can say that this key, named such and such, needs to be either an integer or a Boolean or whatever. So Codeception, awesome. Well, yeah. So Slayer Darth, kind of. Well, I wouldn't say it's easy. I wouldn't say it's easy to write unit tests for the back end, because you have to break apart the back end to like the nth degree. A unit test is testing a unit of code. But what you often find out when you do a lot of unit testing is that you need to refactor your code in order to make it testable. So, for example, testing things that are private is very difficult. Testing things that are static is very difficult. And when you find that suddenly you've got methods in there, everyone has methods and classes that have huge sort of logical complexities, lots of if statements and so forth. So testing is a way that I find is a way of sort of highlighting the areas that I need to refactor. If I can't test the code easily, then that's often a sign that the code itself needs to be refactored to make it not only testable but also extendable for future. What really helps is the solid principles. So when you're giving something a single responsibility, that way you're only testing one thing. You're only testing for like one outcome, that kind of thing. As soon as you start throwing lots and lots of if statements or switch statements in that, it becomes a bit of a, I wouldn't say a nightmare, but you have to test obviously every use, what am I, words, think of the words, every case, right? Every flow in that. And yes, I do agree, Samson, that mocking and dependencies it can be an issue too. I try not to do as many mocks as possible, because when you start mocking and mocking and mocking, when you've got mocks on mocks on mocks on mocks, it does get, you start losing what it is you're actually testing. Are you just testing the mocks at the end of the day, and you can actually write mocks in a way that isn't a true representation of how the actual code hangs together. So the complexities there is when you're testing stuff that touches the database, touching a data store, because you've got ORMs to deal with. You've got all sorts of things that you need, all the dependencies that you have to deal with as well. So yeah, so I wouldn't say that unit testing the back end is easy. No. But testing is something that we have to do. It's something that we have to do, and unfortunately we don't do enough of it. In my opinion, we don't. We need to do more, because this is moving into a bit of a rant now, but technology is moving on so well, and software is something that is embedded in every part of our life. You literally cannot drive a car these days without interacting with some part of software, and so you can't buy something without using software. So we need to test all of these things, and we're not testing them, in my opinion. It's all about discipline, being a disciplined programmer, but whatever. Yeah, I haven't used Phantom CSS. That's is that something that spins up a browser or something? Is that similar to, dare I say, Selenium or some sort of internal server thing? Spinning up a Phantom, browser. I think I'm gonna probably leave this here, actually, to be honest. I'm gonna tweak it after this, but the thing is, I've got bits and pieces that I need to get on with, other stuff that I need to do today, but I'm gonna leave it there. Oh, Phantom JS is deprecated. I didn't know that. So I'm going to leave it there, but I'm going to try and publish this to YouTube if I can. I do apologize about all of the crummy sound qualities. If I deem it to be really bad, then I won't post it. But hopefully I'll do one of these again. Because I found it quite fun, and I've actually got something from it. And this is the whole point of doing these kind of things, this sort of content, is that I have limited time, as I've said probably a million times already, and so when I try and provide more content, I need to think of it in a way that I'm actually getting something from it. So I'm going to leave it here, but thanks ever so much for watching, guys. Thanks ever so much for commenting. It's been great fun, and we'll hopefully our paths will cross again. But happy coding, everyone. See you again next time. Cheers. Bye.